Economy bolt-action rifles. Something the audience seems to care a lot about. That's what we're going to talk about today. That good value, mid-tier bolt-action rifle lineup. Welcome to the podcast where we tackle this topic and, God willing, many others on shooting, firearms, ammunition, ballistics, the right way with God Almighty at the center, biblical Judeo-Christian values, and real-world first-hand experience. On that, real quick, flyover, military, law enforcement, private security contracting. Been hunting since I was a young boy. Been a professional hunter and guide. Competition shooter. Firearms instructor, etc. Bio bullet point in the show notes. Okay, let's get into, first of all, let's define the terms. I think this is a term that I came up with. If somebody else is using it or came up with it, I don't know. I'm not, I don't watch YouTube. I'm not on the social media stuff, so I don't know. But I'm going to call it economy bolt-action rifles. Not like budget. I would consider budget like dirt cheap bolt-action rifles. And then economy is kind of like where I think you get your best value. I'm going to call budget below $600. And of course, this is a gray line, right? But below $600, let's say MSRP, right? Because prices vary depending on what's on sale or whatever. But below $600 budget rifles, but that $600 to $1,000 range. There's a lot of guns in this range that bring a lot of value. So kind of that flooded market. It's kind of like the AR market or the polymer, plastic fantastic, polymer striker fired handgun market. Just flooded. So what is a gunfighter to do? What's a hunter to do? What's a person looking at getting a mid-tier, good value bolt-action rifle to do? Well, I posed a question as to which one of these, you guys, the audience on Patreon, and I left it open to the public so you didn't have to be a paid member to comment, but what are you guys most interested in? Now, the poll is not closed, so you can go and check it out if you want to. There should be a Patreon link in the show notes, but I just did a screenshot, so these numbers may differ when you go to look at it. But the lineup, Ruger American Gen 2, the Tikk T3, the Winchester XPR, the Browning Ab3, the Howa 1500 series, the Weatherby Vanguard, which is kind of their base model series, the CVA Cascade, the Bergara, and the Sauer 100. Okay, so there may be more than this. Also, caveat to this, this includes no Turkish-made guns. If you want to give money to Muslims that would like to take your women, use them and abuse them without your consent, kill you, destroy your progeny and your way of life to save a few bucks on a firearm, then you do that. But I'm not going to encourage you to do that. If you think that's a good idea, you go ahead. But I'm not going to do that, and I'm certainly not going to encourage you to do that. So, yeah, there's no Turkish guns on this list. So, off of that soapbox, there may be some other ones that I forgot, right? These are ones that I'm familiar with. They've been around, most of these things have been around quite a while with a few exceptions. So, they're well established. Again, I think they're all good value guns. So, that's kind of the lineup again. Ruger American, Tikk T3, Winchester XPR, Browning Ab3, Howa 1500, Weatherby Vanguard, CVA Cascade, Bergara, and Sauer 100. Now, that's what I put on the list. So, by far the winner, the Ruger American Gen 2. I'm not really surprised by that, right? The Ruger American Gen 2, the Ruger American Gen 1, it was a solid gun. It was kind of just really well made. It's like the epitome of an economy rifle that shoots really well. it's a good value for the money. Like many other things, there's kind of a bell curve in value in bolt action rifles where if you put this in the middle, like you can spend double the money, but you're not going to get double the rifle. You're going to get 10 or 20% better rifle. Is that worth it? To some people, yeah. If you're really hardcore about what you want, for sure. If it's for like a dangerous game rifle or a hardcore backcountry scouting rifle, I would argue yes. But just for the average white-tailed deer hunter or the guy that just wants to go to the range and shoot tiny groups, probably not. That's why these are so popular. They're a good choice. They are American-made. Ruger has a good reputation. And I think where Ruger shines is they make really good value guns for the average blue-collar American. It'd be kind of cool if they came out with a gun like this called the blue collar. That's just what I think of them as, right? They don't do great on military contracts. I've never been on a, private security contract where I had a Ruger anything, right? I'm sure somewhere, some law enforcement agency used like a Ruger Security 6 or a GP100 or something back in the day, but I'm not really aware of that. They're not really known for their hardcore use in military law enforcement circles. But where they are known is for the average blue-collar citizen to get a lot of value for his hard-earned dollar. That is kind of where they're known, in my mind at least, kind of what the brand represents. And that's no exception here. The Ruger American Gen 1 laid the groundwork for that. The Gen 2 gave you some extra bells and whistles, right? Some Cerakote, some fluted barrel. From what people are telling me, it's got a 3-position safety, which I don't like where that safety is at as compared to what I normally like, but it's a good position for a safety, and it's 3-position. That's kind of important to me as a hardcore hunter. I want to be able to lock the bolt closed so that when I'm, crawling on my hands and knees through willows or briars or whatever, it doesn't go on fire or it doesn't, dump the rounds out on the ground. For the average person that walks to a deer stand, less than a mile and sits in a deer stand all day, it's not going to make any difference. But I do appreciate a 3-position safety. Apparently they've added that. It's, it's a good all-around gun. Threaded barrel. They've done some good stuff to it. So the Gen 2, unless there's some glaring issue with it, it's going to be even better than the Gen 1, which is a good gun. So I'm not surprised. Right? I'm not surprised that the Ruger Gen 2 won that. But what I am surprised at is the Howa got the second most votes. And that actually is really surprising to me. The Howa, I just kind of threw that one on there as I guess they're around. I am very surprised that it was even in the top 5, let alone the second place. Because here's the thing. If you ground, and I don't own either one of these, but if you ground the name off of both of these, it didn't have the make or the model, and you showed me a Howa 1500 or a Weatherby Vanguard, I don't think that I could tell you the difference. I don't know if they're made in the same factory. They're made in roughly the same location. They're, as far as I know, I don't have them both in front of me, roughly the same design. Why you would pick a Howa over a Weatherby, I have no idea. But the Howa, again, coming on strong. I don't know. Again, I'm not on social media. I'm not watching YouTube. I don't know if they have a really good marketing scheme where they sponsor a bunch of YouTube glitterati or why people are clamoring over the Howa. But the Howa, before they were the Howa 1500, they were made for other companies, I think, roughly the same design, same factories. They've been around a long time. They're a decent rifle. From all accounts, they make a good barrel made in Japan. And the Japanese are kind of known for making good barrels. They make barrels for Winchester. They make barrels for Browning. They make barrels for Weatherby. And that's kind of what surprises me. Why would the Howa? Because when I think of hunting, I don't think Howa. Again, their marketing, maybe game is strong, and marketing is hypnotizing to the gun community for whatever reason. But that's all that's the only reason I can think of. If it's roughly the same design or same barrel manufacturer, quality or whatever, why would that rank higher than the Weatherby Vanguard, which, picturing them in my mind, unless I'm missing something, roughly the same design. And the Weatherbys, from what I look at, the Weatherbys seem more appealing to me, the Weatherby Vanguards. So I'm not really sure how the Howa beats that, but it was the second most popular about what people are interested in. Again, maybe I'm missing something. If I am, if you own a Howa, tell me what I'm missing, especially if you own a Howa, a Weatherby Vanguard and a, a Browning AB3, because I've owned a Browning AB3, and that was a solid rifle. The Browning AB3, a really good rifle. The Winchester XPR, by all accounts, is a very good rifle. So why you get a Howa over a Winchester, why you get a Howa over a Browning or a Weatherby, I'm not really sure. Again, it really surprised me. But maybe there's something I'm missing. Maybe it has like a smoother bolt, or maybe it has some other thing. But yeah, I'm really surprised by that. Why there's so many people that are interested in the Howa. I wouldn't be surprised if it got a vote or two, right? It's not a bad gun. But why it got the second most popular to the American Gen 2, that is kind of surprising. It also beat out the Tikk T3. Now, Tikk T3, I was expecting to get second, because the Tikk T3 has been around a long time. I'm not the biggest fan of them. Not that I have anything against the Finns, right? The Finns are fine people. They're not pagans. They're not Muslims trying to kill me. They're fine. I would have no problem buying a Finnish gun for sure. My kind of issue with them is they're kind of just like the vanilla. They were one of the original, good shooting budget bolt action rifles. Or not budget, but good shooting economy bolt action rifles. They make the base model, which is good, and they make a model with a few extra features that cost way more money. But they have good barrels. They have a smooth action. They're kind of known for that smooth action. But unless I'm missing something, I think they have one action type, which means from your 300 Win Mag down to your 223, you're using the same action, the same different bolt face, but the same bolt length, same action length, same weight. So that, I don't understand why you would want one of those unless you were getting it in like a 270, because as much as people, bicker about long action versus short action, well, the Tikk just has like N action. So you're doing a lot of superfluous movement, if you're shooting a 223 out of a Tikk. So I know that people love them. I know they have a good reputation, and they're not a bad gun. They're a smooth action. But you're kind of just, whatever gun, whatever caliber you get, you're just getting one action length, and that's fine if that's what you want. And again, if you're getting like a 270 or a 30-06, yeah, you're not really losing out on much. I don't know why you'd get one in like a 308 versus a 30-06 if it's the same action length anyway. Why not go with the extra ability of the 30-06? But it is what it is. The Tikk, I was expecting to get second. The one thing I do like about Tikk is they do have several stainless steel versions, which I'm a big fan of. Winchester XPR and the Browning AB3 got no votes, which kind of surprises me. The Browning AB3 is not one they advertise nearly as much as the X-Bolt, but it's a good gun. It's a good gun, good shooters, basic no frills, but they're solid. There's nothing wrong with them. I think that stands for A-Bolt 3. So the A-Bolt was a pretty famous rifle. They went to the X-Bolt, but the AB3 is a good gun and a good economy rifle. The Winchester XPR, no votes on that. It's not a Model 70, right? And that's one thing these all have in common. They're all push feeds. They're all basically plastic push feeds. I'm sure some of them make a model with a wood stock, like I know the Weatherby Vanguards do, but they're all plastic push feeds. So, the Winchester XPR, it's their push feed rifle. It's not made in America, but as far as I know, no Winchester weapons, no Winchester rifles or shotguns, as far as I'm aware, are made in America any longer. So there's that. But the Winchester XPR got 0 votes. I've never owned one, but from all accounts, they're a decent rifle. The Weatherby Vanguard, I thought that would do better, did not. The CVA Cascade, yeah, they've done okay by all accounts. I think they're Spanish made. Got nothing against the Spaniards, right? So there's that. The CVA Cascade got a few votes, and the Bergara did surprisingly well. Again, Bergara, okay, but why would you get the Bergara over the CVA Cascade? I don't really know. As far as I'm aware, it's just a copy, a Spanish copy of the Remington 700, and I don't know if there have been many improvements, but the Bergara, what is I don't know why that's so popular. Are they doing something? I know they're kind of pushed as a very accurate precision rifle, but except with a few exceptions, they look fairly heavy and clunky to me. But you do you. I guess I didn't specify what it was going to be used for. If you just want some giant thing to throw on a tripod and throw a giant scope on and shoot a tiny group off a bench, I think Bagaras are fairly accurate rifles. So on some things, like I expected the Ruger American Gen 2 to do fairly well. Although it didn't get second, I expected the Tikk T3 to do fairly well. So which one of these should you get? Well, unless you're just a brand loyalist, in which case you're listening to the wrong podcast. I don't take sponsors. I don't take bribes. I'd say these are all good guns. That's kind of the thing here. They're all good economy rifles. I don't think any of these are bad rifles. So what you should look at, I think, if you're looking critically and you're not just brand loyal or your favorite influencer uses this, your favorite influencer says you'll be a cool guy if you buy this one, what you should do is look at the difference. And again, these are all push feed rifles. So look at the differences that are germane to you in this world. So a couple of ones I can point out that are differences. Do you want a 2-lug or a 3-lug? This is a major difference between several of these designs. Do you want a 2-lug or a 3-lug bolt? So the big difference is, and this is a rough number, right? It could be 63 degrees. It could be 85 degrees. But roughly, generally, a 3-lug bolt is going to give you a 60-ish degree bolt throw. A 2-lug bolt is going to give you a 90-ish degree bolt throw. I don't really notice much difference. You're going to have to overcome that same resistance. All of these that I'm aware of are cock on open actions. So do you want that cocking to be done in a shorter amount of mechanical movement, which requires, generally a more strenuous short pull up on the bolt? Or do you want it to be more gradual? Because if you do, then you want the 90. The other difference is a 60-degree bolt throw. If you're going to throw a giant scope on a rifle, which I'm not a fan of, a lot of times with those 90-degree bolt throws, a big scope can get in the way of you doing a quick follow-up shot with your hand on the bolt. You may have to do some kind of modified technique, or in extreme circumstances, you may even have the bolt contact the scope, which obviously you can't have and work well. So, and it can even impede the movement of the bolt at all. So if you're going to run some obese, fat, nasty scope on the top of your rifle, you probably want a 60-degree bolt throw. Or you're going to put really high rings on your rifle, which I think is an abomination. If you want a practical rifle, if you just want a rifle to shoot off the bench, doesn't really matter. But the bolt lug design, that's something you should pay attention to when you're deciding with these rifles. What's the bolt throw design? So the 3 position or the 2 position, that's a big differentiator. Also, magazine design. Now, for hunting, I actually prefer a floor plate design. That's like my preferred. A blind magazine is fine too. I actually don't, if it's a pure hunting rifle, I actually don't like a detachable box magazine. Okay, there are advantages to that. There are disadvantages. My personal one for hunting, for guiding, for whatever, I like a floor plate magazine. It's kind of the best of both. You can easily take the cartridges out. You don't have to run the bolt every time to get the cartridges out. But also, it's really minimalist, right? It's not going to hang up on stuff. It's not going to, like, when I'm hunting, when I'm stalking, which is my preferred method, I like to stalk and still hunt and track. And I like to have my rifle in my hands. Oftentimes, I will have it in my hand balanced. If it's a well-balanced rifle, it'll generally go right where that magazine is. So I don't want a protruding magazine. And most detachable magazines are that. Some are not. But, what is the magazine style? Is it a flush fit, 3 or 4 round internal detachable box magazine? Or is it a floor plate magazine, or is it a blind magazine? There are advantages to all of those. But if you want the most simple design, like if you're just getting into hunting or whatever, just getting a basic blind internal magazine may be the key for you. You don't have to worry about losing a magazine, which can happen. You don't have to worry about, again, you're crawling on your hands and knees through willows, and you get to the other side and you shoot once and you go to reload and you realize, oh, you dropped your magazine. And a lot of guys with bolt action magazines don't even bring in a spare one when they're hunting. So you've just shot your one round and hopefully you don't have a wounded animal, but you have no more ammunition. That stuff happens, right? So, or you go to unload your gun at the end of the day. You're like, I'm going to unload it. I'm going to put my, magazine in my jacket pocket. And then the next day when I'm going to get off the road to hunt, then I'm going to load my rifle back up. Well, for whatever reason, you switch jackets or switch pants, and now you don't have your magazine, and you go to load up and you don't have any ammo. That's a lot more likely with a detachable box magazine than an internal magazine or a floor plate magazine. Again, there are advantages to every system. That's why they all exist still. But that is a major differentiator for you if you're looking at, which of these to buy. Another big differentiator is, what is your environment, right? What is your environment that you're going to be using this rifle in? If it's for shooting at a bench at a gun club and you're going to clean it when you're done, and if it's pouring down rain and you're hailing that day, you're not going to go shooting, then just a blued gun is fine, like the old classic blued steel. And who cares, right? But if you're going to use it in like harsh conditions, I'm a big fan of stainless steel. Even if it does get some rust on it, I can take some steel wool to it or whatever. I'm a big fan of stainless steel. That's one option. Another option would be Cerakote, right? So some of these are going to be Cerakoted. Some of these are just going to be like, not just your more basic finishes. And some are going to be available in stainless steel. So which one of those is going to suit you? So look at the finish. That's something that shouldn't be overlooked. It's more than just aesthetic. Don't get the one just because you're like, I like burnt bronze. Like if you want to do that, fine. But what practically is that finish doing for you or not doing for you? So the finish of the gun is something. Threaded barrel, if you want a threaded barrel, I don't like generally suppressors for hunting, but if you do, that's something you should look into. I do like a muzzle brake depending on the caliber. I also, not just for the mitigation of recoil, I like a muzzle brake so when I drop the gun on the muzzle or in the dirt, I'm way less likely to damage the crown of that rifle. That's the major reason that I like a threaded barrel with a muzzle brake on it, or I'll just put like a rubber washer and I'll back that, thread protector out a few turns so that it protects the muzzle. Basically, it's me like a recessed target crown so that when I drop that gun in the rocks on its muzzle, I'm less likely to damage the gun permanently. So threaded barrel, something you might want to pay attention to. Length of pull. If it's your first rifle, you may have no idea. But after you've been around a while, you probably know roughly what your preferred length of pull is. Some of these have adjustable length of pull. Some of these do not. That's a big deal. If a rifle doesn't fit you, if you're shooting it off a bench, it doesn't matter because you can take all the time in the world to get your eye aligned behind the scope or whatever. But if you're talking about this elk is walking through timber and I have a second and a half to get this shot off and I need to throw the gun into my shoulder and get a shot off quickly and it needs to fit me properly, eye relief, length of stock, length of pull, height of optic, and that all needs to work together well. Well, some of these, again, have adjustable length of pull and some don't. That is important for you if you have shot enough to know your length of pull and know how to shoot and throw a gun up in your shoulder and get a quick shot off. That's important. On a bench, doesn't really matter. These are all push feeds, so they're all subject to, double feeds as opposed to like a good controlled round feed action. However, there are better and worse actions for if you're going to use it in harsh conditions or where, dependability is really important. If you think like, it's a bolt action, it can't malfunction. A bolt action absolutely can malfunction, and a push feed absolutely can malfunction more than a control round feed. So you can get not all push feeds are created equal. Some have much better extractors. Some have much better positive retention. Some have much, more pronounced ejection. So that's something. Also, something often not discussed is many of these have a closed top, meaning like they eject out the side and they'll have a fairly small ejection port where the rounds come out. Some will have a completely open top design. This can be a big deal if you do get that double feed to actually fix it. If it's a fairly enclosed design and you've got to reach your hand inside there to clear that malfunction, well, then that's a lot easier with an open top design. I know it's a control round feed, but if you think of like the old Mauser design, when you pull that bolt back, that whole thing is open for you to clear malfunctions if you should get one. With a more closed design, with a very small ejection port on the side, that's a lot harder to clear a malfunction if it gets filled with snow and ice and rain, sand. Again, if you're shooting off the bench at a gun club, doesn't matter. But if you're in harsh conditions where it's snowing, things like that, you may get a more open liberal design to let you get your hand in there to clear malfunctions. Double feeds, a stuck case, things like that. That can be a much bigger deal in actual hard field use. So that is a thing to differentiate. And because I'm not brand loyal and I don't take any sponsors on the show, I know there are commercials on the show, but that's because the host puts in the commercials. I have no idea what the commercials are, and I think they're tailored to your algorithm. So I have no idea what commercials are on the show you're listening to, but that's not me taking sponsors. I have no idea what commercials are on the show. I don't take sponsors. I don't take money from gun companies or ammo companies. If you want to support, become a patron so I can give you an honest scoop on the guns. But which one of these should you choose? Go through that list and maybe some other criteria that I didn't mention and see which one of these best suits you, because I think they're all good rifles. None of these have any big glaring problems that I'm aware of. So go through that criteria of what's important to you and let that be the basis for which rifle you want. Because again, I think they're all good rifles. So, do you want a 3-lug or a 2-lug? What is your length of pull? And if it's a standard length of pull and that rifle fits you, not an issue. But if you're taller or shorter, or you have a more aggressive shooting stance, you may want a different length of pull. And an adjustable length of pull is a big deal, because if you buy this and you have to go buy an aftermarket $200 or $300 stock, well, then it's no longer an economy rifle. It might push you up into that higher tier where $1,000 rifles are greater, and you might have been better off with a more expensive rifle to begin with if you have to buy a whole new stock. So that's something to consider. Or if that's your price range, you may have to drop down a tier to like a Savage Axis or a Mossberg Patriot and get a new stock with that budget that fits you, like a more custom-made stock that fits you. So just some things to think about. Which one of these should you get if you're in this market? Go through that criteria list and see what is and is not important to you, and make your best educated guess for you, because I don't know you. I don't know your circumstances. I don't know what you're hunting. I don't know what shooting experience you're trying to get out of it. I don't know. All of these are good rifles. They're all accurate rifles. You may get a lemon. That can happen. Anything can happen in a Glock 19. Lemons happen, and unreliable guns and inaccurate guns happen with every model. But in general, they're all going to be good, accurate, push-feed, bolt-action rifles. So go through that criteria list and decide what's best for me in my circumstances. That's the way I think to go about it. And often a way to do this the best is to figure out caliber first. I'm like, I want this gun, and I'm just going to pick a random caliber to get it in because I want this gun because it looks really cool. What's the caliber, right? You should start there before you even look at the rifle. Like, what caliber or what 3 or 4 calibers is best going to do what I am looking to do? For instance, I'm going to hunt pronghorn on the open plains of the Great Basin. The high desert of the Great Basin. So 25-06, 243, 6.5 PRC. There's probably ones that I'm missing, right? But if I'm hunting pronghorn in the Great Basin, those are going to be my 3 go-to calibers. If one of these rifles is not available in those 3 calibers, I'll just move on to the next rifle that is available in one of those calibers. So again, something to consider first is the caliber. So that might knock some off the list to begin with, because even the best choice in one of these rifles in the wrong caliber is probably better than another rifle in the right caliber. So don't put the caliber at the back of the list. With that, guys, I appreciate you. I appreciate all that you do. Your tactical verse of the day: he makes my feet like the feet of a deer. He sets me on high places. He teaches my hands to make war, so that my arms can bend a bow of bronze. Thanks for listening, and have a blessed day.